What's up, guys? This is Coach Grant with First Down Training, and today we're going to be breaking down how to improve your arm strength. So we're going to be taking a look at some of these clips here. We're going to be talking about how you guys can throw a better deep ball, how you guys can be more consistent on deep ball, how you guys can get more velocity on your throws, and how you guys can be comfortable throwing on the run and throwing off platform. Okay, so that's what we're going to focus on today. And guys, if you're a quarterback and you want to get a stronger arm and you're not sure how to work that, right? You're not sure what the exercises to do. You're not sure about all the mechanics, right? And you want a full arm strength manual and a 4-week arm strength improvement program. We give you specific exercises to improve your arm strength, specifically made for QBs. Check out that first link in the description. It says get a stronger arm, 4-week program, and a manual on everything that you need to get a stronger arm. Let's get started with this video. So the first things first we're going to be talking about is just Brady's hip and shoulder dissociation and just kind of like that sequence, as I like to call it, right? So we're going to be talking about the things that tie into velocity. And it's all about torque from your hips, separating your upper half from your lower half, and the ability to produce ground force. That's really all that matters, right? And obviously a little other mechanical things tie into it, but that's what we're going to be focusing on today. So we're going to watch this again full speed. I want you to see how well he's able to rotate with that front leg. Even on a timing route, he's throwing off the 5th step on this thing. So we got to make sure that we have the same sequence, right? When you're throwing a timing route where you're not taking a hitch into it, you're not resetting your feet, you're just throwing off that back leg, it's very easy to get a real long stride, right? But if I can get a consistent stride, normal, as I'm closing my shoulders and I'm allowing my hips to rip through, that's going to give me more velocity on this ball. So you see how when Brady goes here, right, the reason why he gets that front foot down. Now when that front foot gets in the ground, right, you can see it because it starts to get real solid. That's when he has his front shoulder closed, right? He's not lifting this ball at 90. He's not flipping open his front shoulder. He's not spreading his chest, right? He has that separation. You can see it here how he's got his front shoulder closed, like it's cocked back, and then he's got his hips going through and his hips are rotating through. That's what they call torque, right? That's how you produce torque. But there are a couple more things that tie into it, right? Because what gets us to this position, obviously, is my base. I always like to start with the base because I feel like the base is one of the easier things to correct for a quarterback because it's such a good indication of where you're at balance-wise, an indication of where you're at with your motion, right? So you see, again, he's got a slight bend. He's got sitting at his hips a little bit, a slight bend to his knees, right? And he's sitting back. He's keeping his butt at the same level because if you guys are solid with your lower half and you can strike the ground with a slight bend to that front knee, that allows your hips to come through, right? And it allows you to bring that back knee closer to your front knee and really drive, right? But we get some power when we start to push off of this back leg. You see, right when he hits here, he's in a perfect base. He's pushing off that back leg, and you want to be able to push and then turn over. You see how he's got that little turnover with his hips, push and then rotate. And you see it's his front hip rotating through as much as it's his back hip rotating through. So many quarterbacks like to go here and they like to drive with their back hip, but their front hip stays closed, right? And what ends up happening is that they love to swing their upper half through because you're a rotational athlete and something's going to have to rotate through, right? So it's very important that you're able to drive that back hip through and open up that front hip and get your hips parallel to the target, because when you close that shoulder and you rip your hips through and you get it parallel, that gives you more pop on it. It gives you more of that snappiness to it, right? But now the thing that makes us finish this throw that helps with velocity, torque on this throw is that your front arm stays by your face so you can stay square. Because if you fight that urge to swing around, right? Because everybody, especially young guys, they love swinging their front shoulder and it ends up going behind them or ends up pointing behind them. The problem with that is that you're opening up the same time your hips are opening up, right? You want to be able to close that front shoulder as your hips are snapping through and that hand almost pulls back to you like you're eating a sandwich. That's how we want to think of it. That front hand you see with Brady, it's right here, almost touching his right arm. That tells me that he's not swinging open. He's not being a shoulder thrower. He's allowing his hips to do it. And when you allow your hips to rotate through the throw, that's how we get more torque. But you got to combine that with the separation with your upper half. So the number one thing is we don't want to open. I don't want my whole front side to open as my hips are open. I want my front side to close as my hips are shooting through. That's going to give me more velocity. That'll give me more torque on this ball. And again, you want to be focused on producing ground force with your lower half. Let's watch this thing again full speed one more time. So shoulders back, hips shoot through, make sure I got a consistent front stride and sequence. Okay, so now we're going to be talking about this deep ball here by Goff, right? So how you guys, honestly, yes, this is a little bit longer of a motion, right? He's known to maybe have a little bit longer of a sequence, right? But that's all right. We're not going to focus on that too much today. We're going to be focusing on just where you want to have that wrist flick and your shoulders, okay? Because a lot of people struggle to get the nose of the ball to turn over. I get that question at least 50 times a week. How can I get the nose of the ball to turn over, right? The thing about that is that to turn it over, you need to have great hip drive like we were talking about, right? You can't be a shoulder thrower because when you swing your front shoulder out, your body's down in midline, your arm's going to go outside your frame, and your release isn't isn't going to be on top. It's going to be across, and that's what makes that ball kind of fade out there and push out there, right? And then same thing, if you swing your front elbow down, your release is going to get pushed higher because your body's on that midline, right? And so then you're going to be coming down on the ball, right? We want to be able to stay consistent here with this front side, let my hips do the work, and I snap my wrist at the top like I'm shooting a free throw. So you see when Goff goes back here, right, what does he do? Slight close at that front shoulder. All I know is he's not spreading. He's not spreading his chest. He's not going this way with his pec and this way with his right. His left pec isn't going forward. His right pec isn't going back. He's not spreading his chest. He's slightly closing that front shoulder, right? Keeping it closed on foot strike so it's consistent. Now he's starting to come open because you start to see his hips are rotating through. But when his hips rotate through, he's able to keep that hand right here. You see, everybody's different with that front hand. Brady, he likes to keep it up by his face or up on this opposite collarbone. Goff keeps it right here. He doesn't swing it down though, right? He doesn't swing his elbow down for power. It's like he pulls it right back to his chest. That's fine as long as we're not swinging open and as long as we could be square at release point, right? And you see when he finishes through, that front shoulder isn't ending up way over here. He's got level shoulders, parallel hips to the throw. Now, how we can get this thing to turn over again, you see how Goff's hip is coming through before the ball. That's the key point to get this nose to turn over because it's going to put you in a good position if your front arm stays clean. So if your front arm stays clean, you get your hips going through, your back hip is coming through as much as your front hip is opening. You want to think of it like you see his belly button line, you want to get your back hip and you see to your belly button. That's the key. If you get your back hip to your belly button, that means that you're rotating through enough with your hips. Your hips are going to be parallel to the target, and you're going to be able to produce torque and have distance on this thing. Now, to get a good arc on this ball downfield, what does Goff do? Slightly has an arc to that shoulder. It doesn't need to be pointed straight up in the air, but it's not completely flat because when it's completely flat and you're trying to put air on this thing, a lot of guys are susceptible to pushing it up in the air. They push this thing here because they're trying to put air on it, right? But if I keep my front shoulder up and I let my hips go through first, that can get that thing to turn over. That can get that nice arc on the ball. Okay, so there's a great mechanically sound throw by Goff. And again, how do we finish? We snap that follow through at the top like I'm shooting a free throw. If you guys can shoot a free throw at the top, I'm going to be more consistent. That's how I get more air. And if it's your hips making this throw, that gets that ball to turn over nice for me with the correct air, with the correct flight path. Let's watch this thing again full speed one more time. Great mechanically sound throw here by Goff. Now we're going to get into an off-platform throw that quarterbacks got to be able to make if they want to have a little bit more velocity on this thing. All right, so this next throw here by Josh Allen, he's one of the best at this, at just being off platform, and you see how he throws this thing just a dot over the middle, and he's drifting the opposite direction, right? Sometimes my feet aren't going to be set. That's the reality of the game that we play. That's the reality of the quarterback position. That's just what we have to accept, really, as a quarterback because you're going to be moving around. You got to throw things on time. You got to have certain windows that you got to hit, especially at the level that Allen plays at, and especially the level in college, right? I know a lot of high school guys, younger guys maybe watch this channel, and you could get away with having your feet set every single time in high school or maybe lower levels of high school. But as the game gets faster and faster and faster, those windows get smaller and smaller and smaller. That's what everybody says, and that's what we know that. But what does that actually mean, right, for a quarterback? It means that we got to be able to have a quick trigger with my upper half, but at the same time, my feet aren't always going to be set. But I still got to be disciplined. I still got to be able to have power, and I still got to be able to lace this thing into windows. So how I do that is when your feet aren't set, right, it's still the same sequence. You still get your front foot down. You're still slightly closing the shoulder. You see how Allen closes that shoulder. Now, the key here on off-platform throws when you're not set is to stay disciplined above your waist. So you want to try to keep your hips parallel because your hips are already there. So if you're moving, right, if you're moving off-platform, feet aren't set, you're drifting, you're stepping up, but your feet aren't set there, you have momentum. And now that momentum is going to turn into torque if you're able to fight the urge to swing out and bail out of here with your front side. If you could keep your hips level, you see when Allen throws, he keeps his hips at the target, he keeps his shoulders at the target. He's got momentum because he's actually on the move, but he fights that urge to swing out. And you combine that with closing your front shoulder, that's torque, fellas. And if we could stay square at that release point, I'm drifting out of there, I stay square, I pull that hand, you see, back to his face. Where does that mean? His shoulders are level, hips are level, elbow's not swinging down, he's not swinging open. So what is that? He could change up this arm angle if he wants to. He could throw sidearm. He could come over normal. But wherever it is, it's going to be wherever his wrist flick goes. So that's how we create power when I'm throwing off platform when I don't have my feet set. You have momentum, you're drifting out of there. That's why it's so important to work game realistic situations situations when you throw. I rotate my front shoulder, and when I finish square, and I leave my hips and I leave my shoulders at the target, so it's wherever I flick my wrist, that's where my accuracy is going to come from. Let's watch the thing again, full speed one more time. That's a great mechanically sound off-platform throw here by Josh Allen. And again, fitting this thing into a tight window, throwing with a lot of velocity. All right, guys, I really want to thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. If you guys have any questions at all, leave those in the comments. I'll get back to you as soon as possible. And also, guys, again, if you want to get a stronger arm and you want exercise, because it's all about ground force and torque, right? How you can improve that is by improving leg strength and core strength. Check out that very first link in the description for a 4-week arm strength program and a mechanical guide on how to have a stronger arm. Hope to get you guys on that. I'll see you guys next time.